Outskirts of Yampolivka village, Donetsk region. Russian infantry on 2 armored vehicles were attacked by Ukrainian artillery. One armored personnel carrier did not even cross a forest landing and exploded on a mine, while the other was hit by an artillery shell. The Russian paratroopers try to hide among the trees, but it is the wrong time of year and there are almost no leaves on the trees. Ukrainian artillery starts shelling the forest. Ukrainian drones have also started destroying Russian armored personnel carriers. Armored vehicles began to burn. Another Russian armored personnel carrier was attacked by a Ukrainian kamikaze drone. This hit damages the armored vehicle. After that, Ukrainian kamikaze drone operators begin to hunt down Russian infantry hiding in the trenches. Russian occupants are powerless against a drone with a thermal imaging camera. There is no chance to hide from it. Another Russian assault in the Donetsk region. Here, the occupiers are trying to break through the defense of the Ukrainian military with 1 tank and 3 armored personnel carriers. Ukrainian reconnaissance drone transmits coordinates to Ukrainian artillery. The artillery opens fire, but the first shot is not entirely accurate. The next shot hit the target directly, despite the fact that the artillery was about 10 kilometers away. Then kamikaze drone operators took the initiative and began attacking Russian armored vehicles. A few minutes later, a Ukrainian tank arrived on the battlefield. Together with Ukrainian drone operators, he began destroying damaged Russian equipment. Ukrainian kamikaze drones start attacking static Russian armored personnel carriers. A Russian T-72 tank was destroyed by bombs dropped by a Ukrainian Baba Yaga drone. After 3 bomb drops, the Russian tank was successfully destroyed. In the end, Ukrainian drones eliminated the Russian invaders, who were left without armored vehicles and wanted to retreat to their positions. The Russian offensive was successfully repelled. The occupiers' armored vehicles were destroyed and burned. Russian troops trying to break through Ukrainian positions failed. 1 armored personnel carrier hit a mine and was destroyed by a drone. Another was also destroyed by a direct hit from a javelin. But the offensive did not end there. Another group of Russians in 3 armored vehicles drove toward Ukrainian positions. 1 armored personnel carrier remained near the forest belt, while the other 2 continued to move. Ukrainians started firing aimed shots to keep the enemy from approaching their positions. The terrified Russian survivors began to flee. Using an FPV drone, the Ukrainians attacked a 3rd armored vehicle that was camouflaged near the trees. Then, using drones, they began to clear the Russian occupiers. Another offensive by Russian troops, but this time with the landing of soldiers to capture a Ukrainian village. The Russians drop off farther away from the settlement to avoid making a fuss, but they do not know that Ukrainian drones and artillery are already targeting them. First, the artillery started shelling armored vehicles. At the same time, the Ukrainian military in an armored combat vehicle, Mastiff, with a machine gun, went to destroy the Russian occupiers who had already approached the settlement. After a machine gun attack, Ukrainian soldiers entered to clear out the Russian occupiers. Chasiv Yar, Donetsk region, is a place where fierce fighting is constantly taking place. A Russian bukhanka was driving along a road mined by Ukrainians. It hit a mine and exploded. The Russians wanted to storm the Ukrainian positions with 10 armored combat vehicles. Ukrainian artillerymen and drone operators began to repel the attack. The surviving Russian occupiers head for the trenches, but the Ukrainian military begin to cover them with cluster bombs. And here are the consequences of the Russian attack. 7 out of 10 armored combat vehicles were destroyed. The Russian infantry failed to reach the Ukrainian defense line. The vehicles burned down, and the other 3 Russian armored vehicles escaped. Offensive in Luhansk region. 2 armored personnel carriers with Russian infantry move toward Ukrainian positions. They are followed by Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drones. After hit, the Russian armored vehicles stop and troops begin to get out. At the same time, Ukrainian drones continue to attack the armored personnel carriers. One of the armored personnel carriers explodes as a result of a hit. Then, it's the turn of the Russian infantry. With the help of Baba Yaga drones, Ukrainians began to eliminate the occupiers. After eliminating infantry, kamikaze drones destroyed damaged Russian equipment. Kurakov direction. Ukrainian drone pilots attack Russian infantry fighting vehicle and destroyed Russian tank. As well as the destruction of 2 Russian dugouts. In the Pokrovsk sector, Ukrainian troops repelled an assault by Russian invaders using kamikaze drones. Here, the Russians came under heavy artillery fire from the Ukrainian military, and then they were destroyed by FPV drones. A Russian armored personnel carrier with infantry was on its way to assault, but the attempt was unsuccessful due to heavy Ukrainian fire that destroyed the armored vehicles and the occupiers. Kostiantynivka, Donetsk region. A Ukrainian drone operator notices Russian infantry landing. Seizing the moment, the drone aims directly at the middle of the armored vehicle and burns it down. As you can see, there was a Russian soldier in the armored personnel carrier during the shelling. Here, the Russians have already been targeted with Baba Yaga drone strikes. Then they attacked the armored vehicles. Found the Russians hiding between the building and tree branches. Then Ukrainian drone operators destroy all the occupiers' equipment. Destruction of an airborne infantry fighting vehicle through a hatch. Occupants' equipment successfully destroyed. The Ukrainian kamikaze drone, while scouting the situation, spotted the Russians traveling in a buggy, but they did not drive for long. After the encounter with the Ukrainian drone, the Russians will now have to walk. Here, Ukrainians discover a Russian vehicle parked in a destroyed building. The drone operator takes aim and destroys the vehicle with a precise strike. The object was successfully destroyed. Here, a Ukrainian hexacopter, ahead of a tank moving along the road, dropped an anti-tank mine in its path. The Russian was not expecting it, ran over the mine, and then there was an explosion. Kurakov direction. Russian troops are trying to break through the defense of Ukrainian positions and push Ukrainians out. The fierce and heavy fighting is ongoing, with the Russians sparing neither equipment nor soldiers. After a drone attack, heavy armored vehicles turn into hot metal. The armor fails, and pieces of metal fly in different directions. And this footage confirms the destruction of Russian armored vehicles in the Donetsk region. Russians keep coming to Ukrainian soil, knowing that nothing good awaits them here. Well, they choose this fate for themselves, reproducing Putin's wishes. That's all for today, friends. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. This material was prepared by Hustler. See you soon.